join me in extending a very warm welcome to Professor Jagdish N. Sheth with the vision and the efforts of Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji.
Thank you so much, Professor Gulshansharma and Vivek, of course, and my dignitaries over there. This topic is, I think, very timely and very important. It has a sense of urgency and a sense of importance for a very simple reason. The world needs more and more people in the services sector. Right now, if you look at the US market alone, there is a critical shortage actually of certified, educated, or certified skilled workers even, for example, not only because of the COVID, but in general. We probably have a shortage of about 1 million nurses, for example, in the US alone, and the nursing is a very key industry where there's a chronic shortage because of the certification, education, etc. Those are just the anecdotal examples, but I will set the framework first before we get into some specifics. If you take a grain of wheat and make it into a loaf of bread, an agricultural commodity, the value add is only 3 times. The cost of wheat is about 1/3 the cost of making the bread. It's a low value add. If you take a rough diamond, cut it, polish it, a good diamond cutter will increase the value by 15 to maybe 20 times, which is good value add. It's a manufacturing product, basically, we are talking about, as opposed to agricultural raw material. But if you take a human being, nurture, mentor, educate, skill, the value add is infinite. The multiplier on the ingredient is so high in human capital, as opposed to an industrial raw material, as opposed to, in fact, an agricultural commodity. We are blessed with the population, actually. Contrary to the typical view we had in the 60s, where population control was supposed to be very important, this is the reverse phenomenon now. In fact, if you compare with China, China's aggressive policy of population control 2 decades, 2 generations ago, is now making them more advanced, but also aging society, very similar to what happened to Japan, for example. In fact, Japan has returned to the point of no return. Our strength lies in our future with our youth people, working people. And then I will talk about how this particular talent out there needs to be refined like a good diamond cutter will do, and the refining is on 2 dimensions. Most of our service workers are uncertified. So certification is absolutely critical. And that is where the public policy and the private interest come together. For example, if you look at the largest certifying agency that created a huge human capital, I cannot believe a private sector initiative, which is very interesting to watch, and what can government do in combination, public-private partnership would be incredible, which is NIIT. If there is an IT services industry today who has $150 billion of export value, in addition to SEZ, the special tax zones, etc., we provided economic zones. Actually, the ingredient, which is the human capital, is about NIIT, and of course, followed by Optech. Millions of people get trained. Even though it was a private initiative, maybe for profit, but it really had a tremendous amount of capabilities. Y2K phenomenon came, as you know, turn of the millennium, and the only talent available to understand the old COBOL, and Fortran languages, which I grew up with, essentially, only India had that talent. Think about that. That's sort of the technology of the past, but we can think about technologies of the future. So services sector is very big, very important. In fact, India has the potential to become the service capital of the world, just as China has become the manufacturing capital of the world. The supply chain in services is less complicated, which means it can be done very quickly. It is more similar to the agriculture sector, surprisingly, because manufacturing sector requires lots of capital investment, and therefore a lot of capabilities have to be created, which is very different. I think that's clearly one dimension. How do we make every service occupation certified, including in the manufacturing area? For example, people who do inspection of the products, people who do fulfillment of the services, post purchase of the machineries, etc. So service industry is everywhere as a wrap around the economy. So one is to go for certification. And I'll talk about that in a moment about what countries have done to really catapult themselves from the low income or feudal societies to the most modern societies. The second dimension, equally important in services industry, is that it needs to be more organized. It is not as organized sector. It's very fragmented, very localized. And obviously, it is, because if it is not organized and not having compliances, it is a ground for abuse of the human capital. It's very important to have an uncertified population, certified across occupations, an unorganized sector being shifted to organized sector, which will require public policy. It will require strong intervention by the government, as it has happened before. The nation that we all think about in a vocational training in general, including services and manufacturing, the best in class always has been Germany. Germany has every occupation, whether you are a sweeper on the floor, whether you are a maid service at home, you have to have a certification, and they therefore have a 13 years of high school education to provide that in during the high school time, not in the colleges actually, which is another very key area. The next best example, surprisingly to us, is America. America invested heavily in vocational technical education. In those days they called about, but I think now it's just called vocational education because you need experts and good quality manpower whose value goes up, for example, in culinary arts, cooking, chefs, music. You can think about arts. That doesn't make any difference. So we are changing the word from word tech, vocational technical, to vocational education. That's very important to think about because every services can be therefore certified. The most interesting example of transforming the whole nation in 35 years, such a short period of time, is not Germany, is not America, but it is South Korea. South Korea was a feudal society. You had the Korean War that took place. South Korea, as it broke up from the total Korea, decided to invest from a feudal society to go into services sector. And what they did, certification, they did the certification. And the certification in 35 years became actually not only a middle income country, but a high income country. Why certification and organized approach are important? Mainly because it lifts the wages enormously. So if you take a technician, let's say in the case of automobile oil change, in my generation, automobiles were just mechanical. And you take the oil, it was done by anybody. You did not need a skill set even. But today the automobile is a computer essentially. In fact, a typical autonomous automobile looks more like a large, that's what I think about as my cell phone. Whether it's an Android cell phone, Samsung, or it's an Apple cell phone, just but very big. I sit in the cell phone, but that's what it is. It is tracked by GPS, as we do. It has a software drives the capabilities, but you have a good hardware at the same time, which is very much friendly and usable. So in that particular area, the services sector becomes very key again. It's very important to watch. So automobile industry today, mechanic cannot do anything without having a computer. He has to do that. Wages have gone up now. What used to be paid very minimal wage, now we have to pay a pretty good wage. So to increase India from a low wage economy to a middle wage economy, services sector is the way, not manufacturing, surprisingly, because we thought manufacturing might do it. But manufacturing, except for a few large corporations, is very much decentralized, privately owned, and you have the labor laws and all that stuff, so it's going to be much harder to implement. The hurdles to transform services sector, bring it into modern society are very few hurdles. It is very doable. All it requires is the will set the mindset to get it done. That's the general overarching thing. Let me give you some examples also of how it has been done. I already talked about the NIIT and Aptech. Apparently, the most admired company in China of all people was NIIT and Aptech. When I went to China many years ago, they wanted to create software services parks, and they had about 6 parks in Shanghai area alone, in the southeast part of the country. And they said, we know how to make things, but we don't know how to create technicians and service professionals. And these are the 2 companies that do our job. We would like to start our own institute to do that. It's very fascinating to watch. So to me, services is the core foundation of the economy. Last comment. And then I will open up for any questions if you have. The possibilities in services are enormous. First major possibility, because we have almost a monopoly on that, which is a very important one, nobody can duplicate, is that our traditional scripture-based, not necessarily Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, not religion, but philosophy of the way we live, such as yoga, for example, such as meditation. If we can contemporize that into the modern society, who said that yoga has to be done in a group in a traditional way, but if we can make it more contemporary. Now, here is the irony. Now, Dr. Gulshan, I just can't believe the irony. Yoga is more popular outside India now than in India, first of all, when they are serious about yoga. And more importantly, all Christian churches now have Christian yoga. That's interesting. So they're contemporarizing in the modern world, the way you work it, etc. So if we basically fast forward and take Indian philosophy, Indian belief systems, Indian knowledge, Indian science, but make it into the contemporary context. That's very important. And that goes in terms of appearance, the dress code, for example. That goes into the way we teach, the way we express. I think that's very exportable market because we are the monopoly. And that, by the way, includes Ayurvedic medicine at the same time as a thing. That's clearly one big area. Of course, IT services have clearly shown that at the high end, we can do very well. But IT services is no longer coding only or a BPO. Those are not sustainable in India. We can aspire to go from $15, $20 per hour revenue that we can generate on a human being to at least $100 per hour. The biggest opportunity is in science. We are the largest R&D capable nation in the world. From a manpower viewpoint, we can do more research and development for corporations all over the world. As we have shown, we can do with ISRO what we do, for example, in government laboratories, also but in the private sector. And that is very important because in the manufacturing sector, India came from a trading families. And therefore, they never invested in innovation and R&D. They borrowed the knowledge from some other place, made it localized properly, did a great job, obviously. But I think time has come now to say, the rest of the world, R&D centers should be based in India. Whether it's a Google, whether it's Apple, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Facebook or Meta, what they call it now, or whether it's any of the hard manufacturing people's R&D center, like a design in the automotive. We can think about Siemens, for example. We can think about Mercedes-Benz out of Germany. We can think about Japanese corporations. We have the talent. What happens is that if you push it toward more R&D as a focal area, as a vertical, the wages go enormously high. All of a sudden, you are creating from a low-income population to middle-income to higher-income population. And we are very capable. The point is that this is a resource. It's very moldable. Human resource is more moldable than anything I can do. I can mold material up to a certain level. I can mold agricultural commodity up to a level, but I can mold human beings to a level where they become not only good citizens for themselves, but they contribute to the society at the same time. I've never seen a resource more versatile, more moldable, more resilient, and more capable of surviving through challenges, which I think is very important to understand how powerful this resource gods have blessed us to have it in our country. We need to understand how to make it into a viable proposition and positioning the nation for the future, not just for the past legacy, etc. So I clearly believe professional services, R&D leads the way. Now we are having so many law schools, fortunately. So we are producing great lawyers who understand the British law system, and now they're taking international law, understanding the American system, law system, the continental European law system, our law system. Ours is more a common law, essentially. But again, there's enormous talent in legal services that the world is looking for. Similarly, accounting. In fact, Ernst & Young in India alone has 50,000 employees, I'm told, just in one location in Hyderabad. All the tax preparation work, back office is done in India by all the major accounting and auditing firms. Publishing. Delhi is the publishing capital, not only of India, but of the world. Because we know technical language, whether it's science, math, etc., at such a low cost. No other country can compete against that. Even China cannot compete, which is interesting. So all publishing houses have moved in now. We changed the laws to allow them to have an ownership of publications, but the back office is all done in India. Majority of the academic journals, which are very technical in nature, both from a numerical, quantitative, graphic approach, is all done in India. Whether you are a large John Wiley and Sons, for example, or McGraw-Hill, or any of the large publishing, Oxford University Press, just doesn't make any difference. I think that's very key skill set, again, we can think about in the services sector. Travel is my personal interest. I believe India is a sleeping giant for travel and tourism, especially domestic travel. I was surprised, I think this is 2017 or 19 data, that in India we have 1.2 billion tourists. Now that number didn't sound right because export-wise or import-wise, it's only about 15 million tourists. Why 1.2 billion tourists? First of all, Indians love to travel. They go abroad all the time. But more importantly, we have so many festivals and we have so many marriage-related, family-related occasions, and very, very family-centric culture even today, despite westernization. Given that, I found that most of the travel is domestic travel. It's mind-boggling. A lot of money is there, but it's all the cash economy. And the job, if I take as a traveler, from the start I start traveling, I finish my journey and come back, I have multiple hand holdings by different devices, different people with different manners. It's an industry that can take off very well domestically alone if one does a certification, as they do for safari in Africa, for example. You have to be certified. You need to understand the ecosystem properly. And I must tell you, we are blessed again. This decade is so powerful in favor of India, mainly because the technology is already in place now. Today, technology can do it. We have a smartphone-based technology capable of doing things today. At America, I think we are backward now. We are stuck in our legacy systems of PC-based approach. Our cell phone use is so minimal in terms of daily usage. Like a WhatsApp platform is far more powerful than any platform we have here, for example. I mean, India thrives on cell phones. We laugh at it from here. Our cousins and my grandnephews and nieces, I'm pretty old, so we are 4 generations, they laugh at us saying that you don't even know such simple thing. This morning, even somebody said, let me send you something by WhatsApp. And I said, no, not WhatsApp. I don't know how to do it properly. Send me by email. Isn't that interesting? Email is the yesterday's technology. WhatsApp is today's technology. There'll be future technology. So government has to encourage more technological evolution as fast as possible. Government can provide significant incentives to nurture several verticals, not one vertical, but several verticals. Some of the verticals should be targeted as export-centric. In other words, they are organized, investment is made by the government or by the private sector, whoever does it, but it is meant where 70, 80% go abroad to serve the society on a global basis rather than to serve just the Indian And not just the Indian diaspora, which is pretty strong, but we are talking about non-Indian diaspora, non-Indian population, how to serve them all over the world. The reason is the following, and I'll just stop here and pick up questions. I know I'm talking too long. I have traveled all my life from the 60s. When I used to travel to Europe, this was for a machine tool industry project in India, export promotion potential. Dastur and Company, which is an engineering company, and IIM Calcutta were the two given grant money, either by USAID or by Ford Foundation, I don't remember. And so I had to travel to so many countries all over Europe to promote the idea that India makes good machine tools. These are also non-numeric, mechanical, electromechanical machine tools. Like lathes, machine tools will be bending the metals, etc. You go to the country like Netherlands, which is an automobile country at one time, Germany automotive. It's used in automotive, lifting the forklifts, for example, airplane manufacturing are three industries. And I would say India makes machine tools, and they would laugh at me. But their image was India is a country of roaming cows and snake charmers. Great country, by the way, nice people, but you're joking that India can make machine tools. Think about that. I just would not. I mean, you are hurt when you talk to them because they are sort of laughing at you, which is interesting. Now I go, same countries, and I have when I check in my bags, I have some bellman, as we call it, the porter, who carries my bag. He smiles, first of all, looks upon me with a positive image, and then he says, "Are you a software engineer?" It's interesting, you see. So I think we need to invest in services into the next generation of highly respected industries where the world respects you. Of course, it turns out to be educators, teachers, we respect them. We respect doctors, we respect nurses. In some sense, our early policy was wise. We have to give credit for that. When we decided at the beginning of the nation, 1950, definitely, Republic Day, for example, to invest in two industries where the government will create world-class people. And that was engineering and medicine. Look at in 50 years or 70 years now what we have done. IITs are the showcase of the world. And we decided we will not rely on one country, become independent. So we got technologies from 5 different countries at that time. But we have gone way beyond that. We do more things in these IITs than possible. That's a human capital being transformed into a high-valued thing for the society and for the country. Same thing in medicine. Today, if you watch our channel in America, every time you see on public health and this whole coronavirus, there's always some Indian expert professor, medical doctor who comes on. Suddenly they were there, but nobody promoted them properly, right? And as I mentioned, so I would say this is the sector where India will have a huge comparative advantage in the world. And very clearly, Western world needs this resource, highly qualified, highly certified, high-wage resource, and that can be export-oriented. In other words, you produce in India, but produce it primarily to place them some other place as a very intentional strategy, as many nations have done before. Okay? And I think we need to watch some of the smaller countries and how good they're doing in experimenting toward focusing on the services, especially technology services. But my view is that services is services. I can do anything pretty much. So I'm so glad you're organizing it. This is my passion. You unlocked my passion. As you see, I'm speaking strictly from my heart, not even prepared notes even, for example. Usually I have prepared notes, orchestrating myself to say, guiding myself, but this is the future of India. And I'm so glad your center and the institution, the chamber is actually carrying this one out. And anything we can do to encourage your society, your chamber, anyway we can help would be very, very important. Not only for the industry, but I think for the citizens of India and for the government. Okay, I stop here. I'm sorry to go on for. You unlock the passion in me in this particular conversation.
Sir, it's amazing. It's amazing. I run short of the words. Something amazing which you have given to all of us, something very, very nice. And I will ask something which is, you know, something going on inside, but I'll take on my personal thing later, which I'll check up and I'll ask you. There is a question from a lady from Northeast part of India, and she's a regular visitor, and her name is Julie Subba. She's from Manipur. She's telling how NRIs can help in the education and skills sector in India.
I think it's very possible if India comes out with some sort of a policy. For example, there are two examples out of America that we may see if it's possible to do in India. Under Kennedy administration, for whatever reason, Kennedy decided we'll create a Peace Corps. And Peace Corps became very valuable asset, not only to increase the soft power of and the image of America, which was on a rising star after World War II, and became very important to counterbalance communism in that particular case, but they produced human beings who really were selfless service. They wanted to give to the society, very similar to Mother Teresa kind of a people, you know. And they served 4 or 5 years of their life, very talented people. I think if we can have a Peace Corps of India that can be done, focused on Northeast very easily, and we will attract, by the way, lots of young people in America are very interested in serving in India. But it needs some sort of a structure and a guidance, cannot be strictly an unorganized sector, you know. That's clearly one. Second one is, we have a very interesting program, which I think, again, young people like it, called Teach America. Just like in India, we have a large percentage of population that is not really functionally literate. Many of them are, of course, non-white minorities in this country. And so we provide education to them. Teach America is a public program where an individual says, I would like to serve the society on a couple of years of my time in between my, let's say, bachelor's degree and my master's degree, for example. I really want to give back to the society. So one can create a program like Teach India.
Okay.
We have enough talent to do it from abroad, but also locally. And a nice thing, I must tell you, again, Gulshan, we have to give credit for the next generation. They're just so good. Every time I teach them, I meet with them, it's so exciting to talk to an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old person today because they really have a passion to serve. They're no longer just saying, I want to make money, but I want to make money and have some meaning in my life. And they're very willing to take time out. Fortunately, they come from families who are able to support them to do that. So my view is that I think one can take NRI talent and have quite a lot of them come and serve India. Totally secular, not connected with any faith, totally secular. I think if you make it secular, it is very likely that it will take off very, very well to serve in India. I think service ethos, serving the society, is built into our DNA.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. I've got a personal, request to make to you and to understand the vision. At present in India, we have got 19,000 plus teachers training colleges, and that is called the B.Ed colleges. 20 lakh plus youth are churned out from there every year. The concern is, out of those 20 lakh, 20,000 are the one. Those actually are competent, capable. It is not my version. It is the organization. It is the organization which is heading the entire forum. It is their vision. Now, first of all, after their 2 years B.Ed program, they got to be chiseled, they got to be polished, they got to be harnessed, they got to be developed, they got to be made acceptable. And you made a very important point over here. They got to be globally acceptable. And something very nice example which you gave over here of 1950s, and that is engineering and medical. And then you quoted another very nice example, sir, South Korea. How basically South Korea, from the feudal society in 35 years, how they have changed themselves. There's the another dimension you have given. Now, if we take teachers, educators, trainers, counselors, whatever name you want to give them, we want them to be exported. And if we talk about teachers, so-called, if they are groomed, developed, and then exported, don't you feel, sir, that this is a kind of a soft power which can do more wonders than anything else, and for that matter, dedicating or devoting time on any other area? Your
No,
views on that, sir?
no, I think you really went to the heart of the opportunity and the potential. There is no profession more noble than teaching. Because teaching is that your purpose of teaching is to unlock other people's potential. Purpose of teaching or education is to make ordinary people extraordinary, both in terms of curriculum, education, but personal mentoring. If you look at all the famous people, they always say there was a school teacher who encouraged me to do what I do, gave me a little nudge. If that particular individual, and fortunately, worldwide, doesn't matter which country you go, teaching is still considered a noble, good profession. It's a profession where parents believe in, governments believe in, industry believes in, community believes in general. Everybody says it's good. If we create this talent we are generating, which to me is a good rough diamond. First of all, people went to do bachelor in education because they have a passion for teaching. There's something inside that says, I want to be a teacher, for whatever reason. Could be for job opportunity, for pay, could be living in the same town where you are, could whatever the reason, but they believe that it's not a chore, it is something they want to do. Like nursing is the same way. You have a passion to do it, kind of stuff. So given that situation, I think it's the largest potential immediately by polishing that graduate. For example, making sure that they meet the certification requirements of different countries to be a teacher. Just like in medicine, you generate Indian doctors, but they have to be certified in the American practice, lawyers the same way, accounting the same way. So I think we have to understand that in India, in these colleges, how can we give them the education that provides certification into different parts of the world to be exported as teachers? That's clearly one requirement. And then promoting it. The other thing that we don't do very well, and this is Gulshan, I'm sidetracking, so watch my time and please control me, okay? I find it fascinating that every country admires innovation. Innovative, more innovative, yeah. I mean, we people admire inventions, innovations, innovative culture, but a good innovation without bad marketing, with bad marketing fails. A good innovation needs good marketing. On the other hand, we don't respect and we don't admire how much marketing can contribute to our unlocking the potential. So one of the key things we have to do is any kind of an export market is to over there, which is I learned in machine tool industry project, by the way, lack of awareness, for example, no is that we can show. It needs to have a location. We ultimately decided to, HMT was a big one, Kirloskar was another company in the machine tool industry. So we decided to have showcases in many of the machine tool capitals of the world. Coventry was one of them in England, for example. Dusseldorf were in Germany. And of course, in America was Chicago or Cincinnati. We had permanent showcases because the customer may not come all the way here. You have to go where the customers, or in this case, education experts or administrators or colleges are there. high school especially. In fact, we have many NRIs here who have come under the education visa because there's a shortage of teachers to teach science and math. And if I were teaching that, I would send teachers primarily into the next generation of technologies, especially because that's where the image comes in, science and math. Although we can teach English, for example, because we're very good in English, surprisingly. Some of the top English professors at colleges are of Indian origin. And the need is enormous, especially in the emerging markets, not just advanced countries. I mean, Africa is waiting to be untapped. And to us, it becomes societal. We become very admired nation because we are doing something right. Everybody says that's the right thing to do, which is another key reason. So I think you have identified a very good segment, or a very good sector.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I just needed your blessings on that. And before we convey the formal gratitudes, thanks, and we bow before you, I just wanted to make a humble request to you. On the 28th annual convention of ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, can we make a humble request to you, sir? SEPC chairman is also here, Talati ji, who comes from the accounts, and he himself is a chartered accountant. He made a mention. He was president over there. Can we make one request to you as a fellow, because we both are the stakeholders in services sector? Once in a month, can you give us 1 hour, sir? Once in a month, can you give us 1 hour? This is my humble request to you, sir.
I mean, it will be actually my privilege to do that thing. But to me, I've always advocated that India's future lies in services industries. It has to become service capital. It has everything going for it. Whatever I can enable, whatever I can influence or plant ideas, I'll be more than happy to do that thing. 1 hour of my time is such a small contribution. Thank you.
We are so grateful to you. We become more humble, sir. We become more humble. Talati ji, I give you because you had been so very kind to be here with us as a chairman of the Services Export Promotion Council. I give you 1 minute to share something with our honorable chief guest of the evening in the valedictory session. Talati ji, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
It was a great pleasure and honor to listen to such a wonderful Padma Bhushan, and we got good ideas from him with regard to certain special efforts that we need to make, particularly at SEPC, not from government, as to how we can boost certain kind of export and make value addition. That were two wonderful suggestions from him, and I think we have to pick up such good suggestions and see that how we can help our members, that notwithstanding government assistance or not, what are different areas and new innovative avenues and countries where we can expand and do our export.
Yeah.
In fact, I can share with you that accounting and auditing is such a great need that there's a tremendous shortage of accounts world over. But the problem with India is language. Except English language, we are not that good. Otherwise, if we are good in the other languages, we can do our accounting and auditing export to number of countries like Germany, Japan, and European countries, including France, Italy, etc. So we are working on that. We are training chartered accountants to learn different language. So just honorable speaker mentioned, we have to see that, yes, we encourage our members to further widen their wings and see that they open the new wings and find out new avenues to increase their export.
Thank you. Thank you, Talati ji. And ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a great gratitude and a deep thanks to Padma Bhushan Professor Jagdish N. Sheth ji, who joined this morning, this afternoon, this evening on the first day of our 3 days deliberations, celebrations, congratulations, and what would have been more auspicious. Today is a happy Lohri for entire Northern India, which everybody, it's a Pongal also, it's a Bihu also. The whole country is celebrating and we are also celebrating. And we got such a eminent celebrity this morning, this afternoon, this evening. We are grateful. Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji, finally You now convey the thanks to sir on behalf of all of us.
Before that, Gulshan, I want
Sir,
to say,
sir,
I'm really missing this event because in India, because I love to fly kites. I grew up. There's nothing like flying in Gujarat.
yes,
There's
sir,
some-
that's kite flying is also tourism festival,
Kite flying,
sir.
yeah, I was about to say. And kite flying in Gujarat.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No. So this was to be expected. In fact, it is such a fitting session today because they say a job well begun is half done. When our opening keynote speaker is Dr. Sheth, that's it. We don't need anything more. What more can we aspire for? And with that, we have the two major institutions dedicated to services exports, ICSI, of which I'm also a humble part of, and then Talatiji, CPC, both there. And then Dr. Sheth has given generously 1 hour of his time. That is like you are getting, halwa or on a platter. It is like getting Tirupati Laddu. What else? It is for us to make use of this Gyan Ganga. And again, we are all here for the betterment of Bharat. We all have that abiding passion. That is what brings us together. And so I can't thank Dr. Sheth enough, but thanks is too small a word, sir. He's a true son of India, is true global citizen. We are blessed. That's all I can say. Please continue to shower your blessings on us, sir. And with your blessings, we all hope to be a small part in India's growth story in the services area. With that, I thank you, sir. I thank all of the audience. And Gulshanji, thank you for giving me the opportunity to say gratitude. Dhanyavad.
Closing prayer.
Sarve bhavantu sukinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.